Israel's mandatory military service has presented a long-standing debate, more so since the 1990s, over whether or not the Jewish state would now be better off with a professional volunteer military. The draft was born because Israel needed it, while fighting for its survival.
And the question now is, did we evolve to a certain point where we are strong enough and stable enough and are able to finally say, well, we're not fighting for our very existence every single day?
But he says it's hard to predict if the IDF would be able to defend and protect as it needs to as a professional military. Not to mention, it would change the IDF as we know it.
Because today, as we speak, the ethos is that the IDF is this melting pot, it's a ticket into being an Israeli.
But the real questions lie in the reality of such a step. Nixing conscription is not even an option discussed among officials.
Even though the situation in the Middle East and in the world and in the way we fight wars, all of these things have changed profoundly since, for example, the Yom Kippur War of 1973. Israel may still need a force much larger than is advisable to maintain on a regular basis. We will need a bigger army, we will need reserves, we will need all those things.
So this is age 18 for about half of today's Israeli population. It's a national duty and a societal expectation for the mainstream Jewish Israeli.
You just know that once you're 18, you're going to draft and you're going to do this certain service. And after that, you're going to go and be like a really great citizen for doing that.
You know, you can meet someone, you've never met them before, and you, from 2 minutes conversation, you realize you guys served in the same unit, or you know someone who served together, and you went through the same things, and you know someone who knows someone who knows someone. So it's something that makes you feel closer and brings you together.
But even so, many Israelis request exemptions, with enlistment dropping from 75% to under 50% since the 1990s. Likewise, a 2021 report reveals that a whopping 47% of Israel's Jewish population supports scrapping mandatory service, while 42% oppose. And while 80% of ultra-Orthodox respondents are in favor of canceling the draft, a large chunk of secular Jews, 47%, now support it too. In any case, many of those exempted from military service still choose to volunteer.
There is the personal part that you are feeling like disconnected, and there is the part that you're not done the military, so you're not as good as us.
A fear of judgment and stigmatization is inevitable, even with potential employers. Andor says while he was afraid not serving the IDF would hurt any future career, it turns out that for him, national service was more relevant.
I work with children and youth at risk, so it actually gave me benefits at my future jobs.
So where does Israel go from here? Shelah has proposed a plan to the Knesset's Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee that a force parallel to the IDF will serve inside cities, performing extraction and life-saving services in case of, for example, terror attacks.
The IDF will still maintain the power to tell a person when he or she are drafted, to tell them you will go serve in the army. This will not be voluntary. But those who will not be drafted there will go to this civil security service.
And alternatively, Ben-Shalom says, volunteer military or not, Israeli society needs to develop.
Maybe someday it will no longer be, where were you in the army? Wait a second, you weren't in the army? How can that be? Because we will mature.
Chana Rifkin, I-24 News.